Good morning, Christine Johnson Sewing Friends. Hey, how's it going today? I'm going to be showing you how to cut out your boyfriend jacket. So you're going to be looking mostly at our pattern pieces here. I've got my scissors, I've got my marking tool, and I've got my pattern piece. Now, I would normally use pattern weights on here, so you should be doing the same thing. You can also pin if you want to. It's not required to use pattern weights, but I personally like them. And I actually use rocks, so for my pattern weights, so which I'm not showing you right now. I actually have selected a couple things from my stash to make a boyfriend jacket. You can see here that I've got this pretty pink, it's like a pink woven, it's kind of a mystery woven fabric, probably a rayon blend. I'm going to be making a boyfriend jacket out of this as well for our sample. And then you see I've also got a plaid up there. I'm going to have to match that plaid. We'll talk a little bit about some tricks for matching plaid in another segment, but I'm going to be making one out of the plaid. And I actually already have a fitted jacket out of this black, so I'm not actually going to make one out of this black, but I wanted to show you how we chalk them out. Because I think this is going to help you understand a little bit about fit and also about the construction of the boyfriend jacket, how pieces come together to see it this way. This is also how Christine recommends it. So get yourself a piece of kids chalk, or I like to use slivers of soap here. You can see this is just a standard, sliver of soap that might be left over. Soap washes out, so it's a great choice. And when I mean it washes out, I mean you can use a wet rag and actually get it out, even if your fabric is like say a wool that you're going to want to go ahead and dry clean. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this pattern piece out here, and I'm just going to draw around the bottom section here because I want to just show you something. So you're going to draw around the edge of your pattern piece here. Let me make sure I get this right. I don't have my pattern weights out. I probably should. So I'm going to draw around my pattern piece here. And let me get in here. Okay. I'm just going to draw this bottom section. Like I said, I already have a fitted jacket made out of this fabric, so I don't want to make another black jacket because I've already got one. And the fitted jacket is a great choice if you want a tailored jacket. But you can see here, what I've done here is I've now traced on the lines of my boyfriend jacket. Assume it's the whole pattern piece right now. And what I want to show you is that when you trace your pattern piece onto the fabric, you can actually see details like the way the arm side comes together, the notch at the top of the collar. You can see other details on here that you can't really see when you're looking at the pattern piece. You're gonna actually see them in a different way than you would by just cutting around a pattern piece, because cutting around a pattern piece makes an assumption that you're just going to cut around the outside of it without making any adjustments. When you take it away, all of a sudden you have the opportunity to make adjustments. And we talk about this all the time at Christine Johnson Patterns, because one of the things we want you to do with these adjustments is we want you to say, you know what? I know that I might need a little bit of extra room in the body of this jacket. So what you can do is you can actually cut on the outside of your chalk line. The soap, by the way, is a little bit narrower, so it doesn't give you quite as much room to work with that. But if you cut on the outside of a chalk line, you can get up to as much as an 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch per seam. Now, if you've got 1, 2, and then back panel 3, 4, you might have a whole inch or 1.5 inches of extra width just by cutting on the outside of a chalk line than you would by cutting on the inside of a chalk line. So by way of example, if you are making the boyfriend jacket and you know the bust fits really well up at the top here in this section here, you've measured it out and you know the bust here is going to fit you really well, but you also know that you're going to need a little bit more room in the hips, you can actually come in here and slightly adjust it by simply cutting on the outside of that chalk line. And what I mean by the outside, I'm not talking about outside. I'm talking about outside of the chalk line right here, okay? You can see that I'm just on the outside of it or just on the inside of it. Now, a chalk line obviously is going to be a little wider than my cake of soap here. And we're talking like the white kids chalk that you would normally use. So your chalk line is going to be a little bit bigger. And chalk lines also come out very easily too. You're just going to wipe it off with a wet rag and it'll come off. I think chalk probably would work better if you're making a wool. Don't use a standard marking tool though. I know that they make marking chalk like this, like Taylor's chalk. Some of that stuff is pretty darn permanent and you may not be able to get it off your fabric. So we're talking about kid chalk here, like the kind that you buy in the Crayola box at your local craft store. I have even used kids sidewalk chalk, frankly, in the past when I've been out of it, because we always seem to have like a giant bin of sidewalk chalk. So you can feel free and do that. And it comes in a lot of colors too. So chalk, this is what you would be using. So you can actually cut on the outside of this line, and that would actually give you, if you have the boyfriend jacket front and back sections, you can get on every seam, you can get up to say 1/8 of an inch or even more by cutting on that outside chalk line. Add up all those 1/8 of an inch, however many you're doing, and you can get, like I said, up to 1 inch, potentially 3/4 of an inch or 1 inch of additional space just by cutting on the outside of the chalk line. Conversely, if the bust fits but you're a little narrower in the hips and you want to go down, you can cut on the inside of a chalk line. So this is a great way to make adjustments even while you're cutting out your pattern piece. We do this all the time at Christine Johnson Patterns when we're cutting out pants. We'll extend a pant leg down so we can make it straighter or a little narrower at that time just by cutting on the inside or outside of the chalk line. You're not making any substantial material changes to the pattern. You're not pinching anything out or anything else. You're simply slightly adjusting it by cutting on that chalk line that you've traced. So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and lay out all of your pattern pieces on your fabric as instructed in the pattern instructions. I like to make efficient use of my fabrics, and you should too. So you're going to lay them all out on your fabric, including your side back panel here. And you can see I have my pink fabric here. I'm going to fold that up and put that here. So you got your side back. You've got your back right here. I'm going to pull these off to the side. You've got your sleeve here. I'm going to put the sleeve up there. And then you've got some collars. Actually, you don't have a collar. You have that. You have your facing that you've got ready to go. So you can see this is by the way, a pretty efficient use of space. You can see here that you've got several opportunities to extend out. This is, by the way, this is my copy of my boyfriend jacket pattern. You can see how many times I've made it. If you've made this jacket a lot and you want to make this jacket a lot, you can actually iron this onto freezer paper and then your edges won't curl and do all sorts of crazy things. Usually I give these a light press before I work with them. But you can see here that this is a really efficient use of layout space here. I've gotten, just on this section of fabric here, I've got tons of fabric available. I can notch a sleeve cap in that notch right up there. I've got tons of fabric available to be able to do this. So I have a facing and a sleeve yet to go, and I've still got plenty of room on this fabric. So this is a very, this wider fabric, this is like 54-inch wide fabric. On this wider fabric, the boyfriend jacket is a very efficient user of fabric. You can get a lot of boyfriend jackets out of a good mile long of fabric. So, so definitely when you're laying out your boyfriend jacket, take into consideration these chalk lines, because with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different pieces that comprise the body of the jacket. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, technically, if you add it here too, you can actually extend the width of your boyfriend jacket quite substantially just by cutting on the inside or outside of the chalk lines that you've drawn. So your task is to lay out your boyfriend jacket, put your pattern weights on, chalk around the pieces, take a look at the shapes of the patterns, get to sort of know them as you're working with them, and then decide if you need to cut on the inside or outside of the line, or maybe right on the line as you're going through. Mark all your notches and everything else. Your darts, if you're making a large or an extra large, there's your XL and large darts. I don't need it. I've cut out a medium for this, so I won't be cutting darts, but there are large and extra large darts for better fit there. Mark all your notches here. You can see I've cut mine out here. I do notch them out with my scissors when I'm doing it, and then go ahead and get ready to sew your boyfriend jacket. So next week we're going to be constructing our boyfriend jacket. We will not likely cover that. We may cover a little bit of construction tomorrow, but if you want to go ahead and construct your boyfriend jacket, there are several videos available online on our website in the boyfriend jacket sew along, where you can go ahead and just get started and work on your boyfriend jacket together. Go ahead, forge forward if you want to do it. This is an easy jacket. The most important thing you need to know is this construction up here is a standard shawl collar. So if you've never sewn a shawl collar before, you can consult a few sewing texts. You can consult the instructions, but it's a standard shawl collar. And the most important thing is marking your dot. So if this is a medium dot, you're going to mark your dot and then clip to the dot, because when you start sewing this, and I wonder if I've actually put together part of my boyfriend jacket here. I started some, no, these are some scraps here. I started putting some stuff together. So there's our back neck facing right there. I started putting some stuff together, but apparently I don't have those pieces that I've sewn together already. So, when you start sewing that back neckline of your boyfriend jacket, and we'll cover this in another video, that's the most important piece right there. So just make sure you mark that dot. Christine doesn't put excess markings on any patterns. They're only markings that are absolutely critical. So make sure you mark all your markings, cut out your pattern, and then we're gonna go ahead and sew this boyfriend jacket together in our sew along, with most of the construction happening next week. If you want to forge ahead, go right ahead. The instructions are there. There's also some recorded videos. You can feel free and go ahead. We'll also cover a couple of additional details, including making a clever inseam pocket or a clever hidden pocket in the facing. And then we'll also cover adding patch pockets as well. So be on the lookout for additional videos on our boyfriend jacket sew along.